Fighting games, the entire genre generally themed around being competitive, although there are also single player content in those games, but generally fighting games tend to have issues with trying to gain new fans, or at least maintain them, with a hunter aspect trying to get more sales. Like, they're not the biggest genre to make money. It's going to be more difficult trying to keep your franchise alive with higher and higher development costs and everything. So, developers and fighting game aficionados generally try to find ways to bring in more fans and new fans to a franchise. For many more aficionados fighting games, they just want the ability to fight opponents. That's all they need. That's all they feel a fighting game should have, nothing else. That's all that matters to them, which is good for them. They're trying to attract people who may not want to be people who get more in-depth into the know of fighting games. Like, hell, people don't really do that even for like action games or even RPGs. It just wants people to have fun with it. And going online just get your ass kicked repeatedly by people who know way better than you isn't exactly the most fun, especially when at times fighting game community is not exactly inviting, or they're the exact opposite of inviting. I'm just trying to say, yes, it's funny that Justin Wong was beating people so bad in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, they're refunding the game. At the same time, he was beating them so bad, they're refunding the game. For people who want more fans to play fighting games, sharing this out is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Developers have tried many ways to try and get new fans in, whether it be more simpler options, such as a simple mode for your combat and everything for the gameplay, or even just basically auto combos, which have been a lot of fighting games, like generally stuff like Persona 4 Arena mostly, with those games really have the auto combo aspect, but then other Arc System games included them. And I know more aficionados hate the auto combo, whether it be they feel like it messes with the controls of the game, or they feel like the idea that they're losing a fight because the opponent is basically given, you know, free combos. But hey, it's a predictable combo, you should be able to avoid it, right? I've seen some people try to make a crazy idea that, if we get casual fighting game fans to understand the frame data, that will lock them in and make them enjoy. No, it will not. Just like how me explain the numbers of how RPG works won't get someone enjoyed, it'll make them confused and not want to participate. Whoever came up with that idea is stupid. Whoever came up with the idea to sell frame data Tekken 7 is also a fool. Like, no, try to be like, what if we get to learn the in-depth? No. That's not gonna work. Generally what tends to work is single player content for casual fans. You know, like myself. I'm a casual fighting game fan. Since it's me, casual fan, speaking to fighting game fans about the one aspect. Like, I'm a casual person to the point where if we got an arcade mode, I'm golden. I'll play that arcade mode for freaking hours. Hell, I played the freaking endless mode in Blazblue Cross Tag Battle so much. I don't even particularly like Cross Tag Battle that much. But it's also the fact that those story modes, which really get people invested in narrative, learn about the characters. Like, I'm a person who wants to know the characters, so I get not just a feel for them gameplay, but a feel for the whole entire story. I'm not one of those people who just cares about functions for just functions infinite. I want to know about the character, see what Joe with their personality, or Joe with their playstyle. I'm a basic bitch who plays Shadows. That's all I gotta say about myself. I play Ken Street Fighter, I'm a basic bitch, but hey, to play in arcade mode in Street Fighter 6, I also enjoy playing as Kimberly, and also JP. Ooh, characters I enjoy playing as. Ooh. The thing is, my freaking Shadows generally don't care for single player content like this, where they don't care for story modes. I feel like fighting games can't have good story modes, which I say it's a fighting game genre that around fighting. You know how much fighting happens in this many stories? They should be this up, I'm just trying to say. But you also have a fun aspect when it comes to stuff like, oh, we may don't want story mode to affect the roster for next game because people are very heavily attached to their character or a character that plays similar like them. Fun aspect. So, for example, Tekken 7 was supposed to be the death of a certain character, and Tekken 8's DLC story went, nah, they back at the DLC. And people who the story mode basically got hated on because you shouldn't care about the story mode in Tekken. But Tekken 7's finale was super cool. Tekken's story mode is just great overall. Taking a dump on it basically bashes people who enjoy the story modes and enjoy the story content and how they handle the story characters. But basically, when it comes down to it, people just care about functions all day, every day. Functions for just functions infinite. That extra about more infinite has been proven right throughout the years, more and more so. There's some entire single player content which is designed to appeal more to a casual fan. Like, ideally, for me, World Tour Street Fighter 6 should be the thing that draws me in Although I have my own issues with how World Tour is handled, some fighting game aficionados have issues how the create a character is handled with limitations in their playstyle. Which then comes into the thing aficionados don't like about Street Fighter 6. The focus on the create a character. Not necessarily in the World Tour mode, but when it comes to content release, where a lot of the costume content, or at least, actually I think all of it, so the time is recording, is for the create a character. It's just people generally, if you're more in depth on a fighting game, you don't really care for the create a character, you want to play as your main on the roster, but you don't get DLC costumes, and people feel neglected in that result, even if it does draw in the money. It clearly there is an audience for it if Capcom keeps doing it for the create a character to get more and more customization options than the actual people on the roster. And it's funny to me that I remember when Street Fighter 4 was around and there's 5 billion different versions, that people got mad at the amount of DLC costumes for that game, but now they yearn for it because they literally get none at this point and wish to get more to do more stuff for the character when it comes to costumes, not to create a character who is limited in gameplay. I really aspect of the World Tour more I like is that DLC characters get added to it and have their own little story with the create a character, which is a super cool thing, although it did lead to, you know, they brought back M. Bison, and the story about him returning wasn't exactly satisfying for people. Lots of frustrations. We're going to aficionados saying story mode still matters, all that matters about functions, and blah 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 blah. You got the idea. You know, it's in the Blazblue franchise, which generally is a lot more single-player heavy, whereas massive story mode grants you a visual novel method of storytelling with fights, but you do have the character's endings, a bad ending, and a joke ending, which depends on what choice you make in the story, but also even if you lose certain fights as well, which is just crazy. I remember playing Continuum Shift with Tsubaki, losing an early fight and immediately getting plunged to a joke ending, going, what the F's going on here? And that's kind of fun stuff you get with Blazblue, why I think it draws in a lot of single player content as well. But from what I've seen, aficionados tend to dislike it because, one, they feel like story mode is boring a fighting game, they don't like the visual novel storytelling, they don't like how long these story modes can get since each character has their own role in the story when it comes to Blazblue, one certain aspect, and also it generally means like a villain character, like a boss like character, is generally has to be unlocked, or you could pay like a $1 to $2 to unlock them immediately, which people feel like it's trying to nickel and dime me. It's not nickel and diming you if you actually just play the goddamn story mode. But for some people, that's a Herculean task, in the same way that a kind of casual player to play an online mode is also a Herculean task for them. So generally for more aficionados, what matters most to them is just, is the gameplay good, and is the online good, so they can keep playing it for hours on end, because they just like fighting it, just like the act of playing the game, which many franchises, hell, as people wish for people, that people will do is just enjoy playing the game, which is super cool, although there are exceptions I've seen when it comes to certain games. The biggest and first thing people will see complain about when it comes to Soul Calibur is Soul Calibur 5's abysmal story mode, where you're basically looking at storyboards for cutscenes. They don't really flesh out much of most of the cast. Hell, the freaking mini art book I got from my collector's edition tells me more about the characters than the actual game itself does, which is a whole entire problem. But for aficionado fighting games, that shouldn't matter, because for them what matters more the gameplay, and Soul Calibur 5's gameplay is great. It's a super fun game. It focuses more on the offensive because stuff like parrying was basically made into a meter thing, so you want more just guards. But as people, the only thing people complain about is the story mode's bad, the characters are lame. Even though for them, so that matters more is just the gameplay and it being fun. But Soul Calibur 5, the answer is no. Top of the fact, Soul Calibur 5 changed the roster a lot. Like half the cast got completely removed. New characters, they don't have much, to flush them out. Don't really have much to really add to their personality. So this is kind of one of those exceptions where the pizzazz, the atmosphere, the vibes aren't there for people, and so they generally don't like Soul Calibur 5, even if the gameplay is there, and that's what people matters most for a fighting game. As a casual fighting game fan, I would say that Soul Calibur 6 is great. I enjoy the story mode, I enjoy the also story mode for the create a character, gives you different choices, adds more RPG aspects to the game. That, I feel, is super cool. But a more aficionado will point out issues such as the reversal edge mechanic being a mistake, and also the netcode not being up to snuff, especially compared to other fighting games, which is super important for your fighting game to, work. So someone more casual like me does enjoy Soul Calibur 6 with the offerings of story mode, even the fact that Geralt has his own story mode, although even has story modes for DLC characters, although no story mode for 2B and Hawamaru, sadly. But someone more in-depth can point out the flaws in the gameplay, and for them, that's the bigger issue of Soul Calibur 6, to the point where many I've seen do see Soul Calibur 6 as one of the worst Soul Calibur games as a result. Then you have some fighting games that can basically do very well just based on the premise, like, Super Smash Bros. Being this whole entire big crossover of many different video games into one big fighting game. Although using Smash Bros. Ultimate, you have so many characters, different games, genres, everything, such a crazy smorgasbord. You have the online mode, which generally seems hit and miss based on what people said, and you have the single player content that is practically non-existent, because your main thing is spirits, and spirits just aren't that interesting at all to go against. So having an entire World of Light mode dedicated to fighting spirits isn't exactly interesting for other people, myself included, and just gets boring after a while. So people are just better off just doing classic mode for characters that are more personalized for each character in the roster, including DLC characters. Just to find classic mode a more interesting mode, even if World of Light, if theoretically was meant to draw me in as a more casual fan. Also the fact that, Smash Bros. Being a more crazy antic fighting game, you also have all the items and stuff. But a more aficionado will just turn off all the items because they want the game to be played based on their skill and merit alone. Which, to a casual fan like myself, many people, feels like kind of just gutting half of the game, because the items are a big appeal of the game. The insanity is an appeal, but for some people, they prefer it off, which good for those people, because you have the option to do so, and options make everything great for people. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is an entire fighting game that was designed to be more simpler, with a more simpler control scheme and layout, but you still have a high skill ceiling and so many infinites, it's insane. So you have some games that do try to appeal more to the casual audience, and I freaking love Battle for the Grid, love how it plays, everything, but then you had the more divisive aspect when they add in the Street Fighter characters, because they play like the characters themselves from their respective fighting games. So Ryu and Chun-Li play like Ryu and Chun-Li, not going to play as the other Rangers or villains from Power Rangers franchise in Battle for the Grid, which can feel weird that a game that's going to be simple will then include characters that are designed to be more complicated by comparison. But none of that gameplay aspect matters, because the novelty of having Ryu and Chun-Li in a Power Rangers fighting game is all that matters, baby. That is super cool to include, even if when it comes to gameplay, if you're an aficionado of fighting games, you're going to shred people immediately, especially with some characters, not just some characters, a lot of characters have infinites, with Des believing that, hey, if you're good enough to land that infinite, you deserve it. But you know what? Respect! You also have Persona 4 Arena, which is what I've generally seen, I don't know if it's the first one I've seen, to popularize the idea of auto combos in fighting games, to try to get more casual audience in, especially since Persona 4 Arena being a fighting game spin-off towards regularly an RPG. Granted, that RPG was also simpler compared to other RPGs, but, try to get more people in, and Persona 4 Arena, especially Ultimax, are generally very light fighting games in their own respect. Persona 4 Arena's main thing is a story mode that is core to the game, but all the characters do have their own arcade mode and create endings in the game as well. So it's more the idea of checking people in, and I've seen generally worked, and then just mini or system work games from then on start including in an auto combo of some sort, try to get more casual people in. And auto combos are also despised by fighting game fans because they feel like it's the idea of basically giving people a free win. Although, since auto combos always the same thing every time, just one of them more for to be able to, work around it because they know exactly what their opponent's going to do. But people don't want to mention that fact, they just want to complain about auto combos themselves. You then have fighting games, like I mentioned before, may be simple, but some fighting games that are designed for a casual crowd. Like, that's why you have the Dragon Ball Z Budokai series and how they play completely differently for everything else, because it's more about just enjoying a Dragon Ball game. It's not about trying to be a competitive fighting game, it's about just being a fun Dragon Ball game first and foremost, and the Budokai games excel at that. They have Bukatekaiichi, they also excel at that. So the idea people try to think of making Sparking Zero was essentially Bukatekaiichi 4 into a more competitive fighting game. It was like, you've lost the plot when it comes to these kind of games. And then just the idea that now, characters are being nerfed, buffed, with patch notes Sparking Zero, kind of feels like deviating from just the fun insanity these games are meant to bring in as a fighting game that would appeal more for a casual audience. But nowadays, everything has to be competitive, to where people think Sparking Zero failed because, a lot of players stopped playing the game. Yeah, it's a more casual game. They're not playing the online mode for a long time, because the online mode is more for dedicated fans, but a casual fan will generally clock out of any game, not just a fighting game. You also have the unspoken aspect when it comes to also, online modes nowadays, which is the whole entire gotta pay for online, and the cost of online increasing constantly over the years, to the point which is also one of the reasons why I don't play fighting games online or buying a console fighting game, because it's just gonna cost so much to do so. What am I doing? Paying to get my ass kicked? No, I'm not doing that. So the whole entire unspoken aspect where paying money on just to play online when I'm a casual fan doesn't feel worth it, so I might improve the AI. And when the fan base of a fighting game dies out, I saw those CPU matches. You don't got opponents again unless you find more dedicated fan bases, discords, etc. in order to get fighting actual human opponents. So that's just what I wanted to ramble about when it came to fighting games. Just the weirdness of fighting game fans want more players. They need more people to enjoy the game, because the fighting game genre, are awesome. There are awesome games, whether it be more big budget or niche games. There is cool stuff to be had, but developers are trying to find ways to get more casual fans involved, and the methods can be, just lower the barrier of entry, or just focus more on being this, by default, more simple games, more about just having crazy fun. But more aficionados and people who know more about the genre may not like that because they want things kind of more towards competitive side, or they don't like the idea of more casual fans being given lower skill force, theoretically, more skill force at the top of that, even though a more expert should be able to punish that kind of thing, or the entire idea that having modes like for instance World Tour or taking a story mode and everything is generally seen as why put it in the game? This is pointless, and no, you should only enjoy fighting online and nothing else. So those people like that, they just push people away and aren't helping. Like when it comes to I'm just saying, when it comes to genres that are gatekept, fighting games have to definitely be up there in terms of a genre people try to gatekeep. So I just want to ramble about the genre aspect and just the weird disdain people have for more casual things to include more players to a fan base. Because the people, casual fans, are buying the game. I am buying the game. I am buying DLC, but I don't count if I'm not playing online, apparently. And now for many people, the idea of why can't people just enjoy the game for what it is and not need so many side things in order to enjoy it? To which I say, try playing an RPG without side content into it. Because apparently, I've seen many fighting game fans can't do that one. They crumble and say RPGs need minigames, but then crumble at the idea of someone needing single player content in a fighting game.